Yeah, obviously coming off of a tough week at home, North Dakota State, South Dakota State, two tough losses for us, as we talked about kind of all week leading up to those games. The physicality, super important, was going to probably be an issue for us and ended up being the case. Both teams had really good size, obviously well-coached teams, and defensively, kind of held them probably to their averages. Offensively, we struggled in both of those games, shooting percentage-wise. Felt like we got some good looks, just not quite shooting the ball as well as we have in some other stretches of the season. So this week headed to UMKC for a game on Thursday. That'll be the final game of the first round of Summit League play, and then return home for a game on Saturday against North Dakota.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, we'll go to Koff.
Yeah, Coach, it seems like a lot more people have began to step up around Grace, especially offensively. Just what have you seen from your team these last couple games?
Yeah, I thought Carly Duffney had a nice week. Thought she played a lot more aggressively in the last few games than maybe she had before that point. It's really, really important that she gets involved in our offense and continues to be productive. She's a player for us that can score it herself, but she's also second on our team in assists. She makes players around her better as well. So it's really, really important that we continue to utilize her, continue to help her find opportunities to contribute to our offense.
And then just last one for me, you guys had the opportunity to host that clinic for girls and women in sports. Just how cool was that opportunity for your team to be able to be involved in that?
Yeah, there were a ton of young girls at our game. They obviously were able to participate in some of the pregame, the lineup and things like that. And, anytime your student athletes have the opportunity to be role models for young women, young girls, it's a positive. And this community is, it's full of young girls who are really, really excited about and interested in sport. And, I think for our team, I think it's a great reminder when they see how many young girls are really excited to be here, to watch them, to have them as role models. I think every opportunity that our athletes get to be in those situations, the more powerful it is. I think they're reminded each time that they're playing for, something much greater than just themselves, and they have an opportunity to influence the next generation.
Awesome, thanks, Coach.
Jay, go ahead.
Hi, Carrie.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. As you look at Kansas City, it's a team that has some wins in conference play. Obviously, athletic, they can get up and down the floor. What do you feel like this matchup? The importance of it is amplified a little bit after losing a couple at home, just because try and steal one back on the road and just kind of get that momentum back the way that you had it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely important for sure. I try not to emphasize one game more than any of the others, because I think it's really important for a team to understand the magnitude of every single game. But it is important, and it's important. You just alluded to it. It's important for us to try to get some momentum back. The tough road loss last week at UND, and then the two at home. That's a tough stretch for us, and it's I think it's important for us, for our confidence, to just be able to go play really well. That's the key. UMKC, like you said, very, very athletic. Really try to turn people over, and create offense from their defense. They've got a couple really, really dynamic scorers, but their defense is very, very disruptive.
After shooting the three, wasn't such a struggle last week. How do you get that part of it going? I know you've been relying probably a little bit more on that shot than you would prefer, but with it being so important to this team, how do you get it going? I mean, it's obviously the simple part is just make them. But,
Right.
I mean, it felt like even the ones that should go in, normally would go in, just weren't going in last week.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. Offense is tricky that way. You'd like to be able to control it, and you can't. Sometimes you shoot the ball, and as a shooter, you feel like it's a great shot. It feels good, like it's going in, and it doesn't. So our players are doing what they should be doing, and that's they're in the gym all the time, getting shots, working on their confidence. Confidence comes from preparation. They know that they are very, very good at understanding that. For me as a coach, I've got to figure out how to help our offense when those shots are not falling. And yes, we do rely on it pretty heavily. We've got to, figure out how do we maybe get an easier one, and maybe where else can we go to maybe create some offense until we can gain that confidence back and start hitting again.
Specifically with Lex, which is obviously that first weekend in conference play, she couldn't miss, and now it just feels like we've seen her make so many of these shots, and just is it just kind of in her head at this point, and just or what? How would you explain her struggles in particular?
No, I don't think it is in her head. I think the difference is the shots that she's getting are different shots than the ones that she was getting, early in the conference season. Teams are doing a good job of making her have to think about it. They're not giving her near as many. They're not quite as in rhythm. And so, they know that if they let her get going and give her those rhythm ones, especially off the ball screen, she's going to hit those. So they're forcing her into some different shots, and like I said, she's not getting the volume of shots, and so that puts pressure for a shooter. That puts pressure on the ones you do get because you're trying to capitalize on those shots, and what might be in her head is realizing that instead of getting 10 of them, I'm only going to get 4 of them, and so that's maybe a little bit different. And again, we got to continue to try to find ways to get her loose because she's a very good shooter. We need her production. We need to get her some open looks.
You and I talked. You said with North Dakota specifically that you actually defended them in the way that you wanted to, and forced them into the kinds of shots you wanted them to have to take, and they just made them. How do you make it that much tougher on them this time around so that you can get that one back?
Yeah, I mean, I think the advantage that you have that second time around is the film of your own team actually playing against them and being able to make some adjustments. Clearly they've proven that they can hit those shots we were forcing them into, those kind of contested mid-range jumpers. So, the second time around, we're going to have to take a look and make decisions about, what kind of shots we want to force them into this time. And, they're playing really, really well offensively. They've got pretty good balance, actually. And they're playing confidently, and they have, like I said, some, they've got a post presence, and then they've got a couple of good drivers and a couple kids that you've got to really honor the three. So anytime you've got that, you've got a good opportunity to score the basketball at a pretty high level. So we're going to have to make some adjustments, and that's the name of the game, I think, the second time around, every game you play.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Jay.
Ian, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. How do you look to turn around this 3-game skid now? What's been the biggest difference that you've seen from early in conference play to the last couple of games?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that we've got to be realistic about is 2 of those 3 games were to the 2 top teams in the league. They're both really good teams. Obviously, you want to have the opportunity to get those games at home, but it's how you get it back is focus on the next one and make sure that you're as prepared as you can possibly be. Like I said, I feel like we've got to get our offense going, find some opportunities for some players that either their opportunities have been a little bit more tough or not in rhythm, things like that. That's my job to try to get our offense going. And then defensively, we've made some strides, and we've got to continue to do that. I think one of the things that we've struggled with here in these last 3 games is basketball is a game of runs, but the runs that we're allowing our opponent to go on, they're lasting too long. And they're too productive, So if we take South Dakota State, for example, in the last game, we allowed a 16-0 run early in the game. And those are just against a really, really good team. Those are extremely difficult to come back from. You dig yourself a hole immediately, So those are, our best run in that game was 9-0 run. So, you're just clearly at a disadvantage there. So, we've got to do a better job of, finding ways to eliminate, such productive runs. The teams are going to have a run, but, 16-0 is tough to come back from.
You mentioned finding an offensive rhythm. How do you look to find a secondary and say a third scorer on a consistent basis when Grace is going to produce what she can produce, but find that second and third scorer?
Yeah, I mean, and I think Lex and obviously Carly have both been that for us at different times. I think the key word that you just mentioned is consistency. So those two, it's less to do with what they do with their possessions. It's more to do with, just whether or not they get that many opportunities in a game. So again, part of that's on me. I gotta make sure that those two have the opportunities that they need to be able to be productive to help our team. And then I think there's plenty of others who, in different games throughout the course of the season, have given us that kind of 6 to 10 point production in any given game that's extremely important to be able to kind of get over that hump of, instead of scoring, 55, you get 2 or 3 more people involved from a 6 to 10 point standpoint, and now you're, up in the 70s where, that's kind of where we feel like we need to be in order to be able to consistently win games in the Summit.